Hi guys, it's Phoenix Cannon here, and welcome to the first episode of Backstage Pass, your VIP pass to my lounge. Come sit with me. We're starting this new show, and I'm so excited. I wanted to start out today by giving a background of myself. I know I've been asked a few times to do an interview of myself, or if other people could interview me. And I can give a little bit of my background. So I wanted to kick off today doing that and giving you an intro to me and my vision for this. Also, where we're going to go from here, what you can expect. We're going to also be trying to launch this on different platforms like YouTube. And so we're giving this a little bit of a shot. We're going to trial and error this video portion of it as well. And I've got some questions here from listeners that I'm going to try to get through all of them. Forgive me if I can't do all of them, but I'm so excited to share with you my passion of this and hopefully articulate uh, what I want from this. I haven't thought through each of these questions, so we're going to kind of I don't want to say wing it, but kind of go, just have a natural conversation today. So, a little bit about me. I am a talk show host. I've been in for about 10 years now, but I did start in talk radio. So that's why I love talk shows. How much of my background should I give you? I don't want to bore you, but I have always loved media. And I think I really started when I was just fresh in college. And I started doing my sister was actually in media and film. And she got me a job at the media center. And I started doing filming for like sports games, devotionals, that kind of stuff. And I learned behind the scenes of the camera work. And then I would also, because I really loved acting, I did some acting in high school. I did some acting in college as well. Got my associates in fine arts. They put me in front of the camera because, I was one of the only people that would like to do that part. And so I did film stuff. I also learned how to like do the money reel, put commercials on. We started writing and directing our own commercials. Really got into the film side of stuff. And then I moved schools for my bachelor's, and I didn't know what I wanted to study, but so I studied my associates in Hawaii. And since I wasn't in Hawaii anymore, I was like, "Ah, I need to do something where this school, it really excels." So I'm not in Hawaii anymore. So what's the school good at? And I heard their broadcasting program was really good. So I checked it out and it just kind of resonated with me. And I got into school that school term a little bit late. And so I was looking for a job, and one of the only jobs left was this job at the radio. So I did a job at the radio, and separately I started studying broadcasting and I just fell in love. And it was broadcast journalism. So it was like news media. And I felt like everything of my life that I'd liked fell into place. Like I just have always loved asking questions. And then I've loved this idea of media and on camera. And through journalism, I got to meet so many people. I just love people. And it all started fitting into place. And this creative outlet, I just got to be so creative. So I studied journalism and have a background in that, did documentaries, did reporting, and then I worked on TV for a while. I've also always loved performance and acting. And so then I had this radio background, this broadcasting background, this acting background, and it all started kind of coming together. By the way, I did study other things as well. I studied Japanese, I studied creative writing, I've always been a writer. Um, I studied international development. I love people. So yeah, I've done all of those things. And then, I started my own radio bit on the radio, did some talk show stuff, then went on to TV again, did some news stuff, did some talk show hosting there, and now I'm doing radio DJing. I'm trying to make this a little bit concise so I don't bore you. But that's kind of my media background. And I just, every time I try to divert and do something more, I think, there's this pressure when you're in your 20s, I guess, that you have to just change the world. And sometimes I'm feeling like, oh, if I'm performing, I'm not changing the world, right? And so I had some of that pressure. But every time I try to move away from media, I just kind of get pulled back in. It's just something that pulls at me. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I know some of you are wondering about that draw to media. And so I just feel like this is my calling, and now I'm embracing it. And I've just loved every aspect of media, and I want to share that with you and have you be a part of it because I feel like if you're listening to this, you also love media. And I've loved doing music and bringing music to you as well on air. And so I want to share that music and all the behind the scenes of that as well. Um, so somebody said, describe the feeling when you're on air. I feel joy. I feel joy. I feel exhilaration. I just feel like I'm in my element when I'm on air. It just gives me it gives me a high to be on air and to be connecting with people. And that is kind of my main drive. I've always just loved people. I remember when I was in junior high, my teacher always quoted me because I can't remember why she brought this up, but for some reason I had said, if anyone wants to be my friend, I will be their friend. I want to be a friend to everybody. And I just love learning what makes people tick. I just love learning about people. And media to me connects people. I can be connected to so many people at one time. And the feeling when I'm on air is that I'm able to be be connected. And I think also like so whether it says whether you're behind the mic, whether you're on camera, yeah, there's this exhilaration. And some people get like really nervous, but I don't feel like nervous to the point where I can't move. It's like it fuels me. Like I feel very fueled. And also that I have a platform. Like I'm able to speak to somebody. And there's something, if you're ever in a conversation and somebody's intently listening to you, it gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling like somebody cares. And I think even though I can't see the people behind it, I get that warm, fuzzy feeling like somebody is listening to me, right? So, we're going to continue with your questions. I've given you a little bit of my background now. I know we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to try to get through all of your questions. We're going to continue that when we come back on Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Hey, welcome to the first episode of Backstage Pass with Phoenix Cannon. And I'm trying to give you all the behind the scenes of me. So, what Backstage Pass is it is your VIP pass to my lounge. Welcome. And we're going to get all the behind the scenes of the entertainment business. So that is actors, that's directors, that's musicians, that's other podcasters, YouTubers, TikTokers, influencers in the media. And we're kind of giving you the why. And we're kicking off with the behind the scenes of moi. Yes, I love media. I love the entertainment industry. I've just always been drawn to it. And so right now I'm trying to answer your questions. I know that we've had some listeners submit questions, and I love these questions. So anyway, we are starting off with this one. It says, "What message are you trying to portray each time you sit down in front of the mic or camera?" Um, well, I want to kind of go back to what this show was. It was called Lifestyle with Phoenix, and the tagline was finding the celebrity in everyday people, right? And so we've now morphed it. We're morphing it into an entertainment based one, specifically just behind the scenes of entertainment. But that's kind of what I wanted was that anybody is a celebrity. Everybody is a celebrity. What does that mean? That everyone has something, a story to say. Everyone's like, oh, I'm not qualified to be on a podcast. I'm not qualified. They think that there's this bar that you have to reach, where I feel like whenever I'm talking to somebody, they have a story. There is a celebrity that you shine. I was listening to RuPaul last night who said, like, your soul is made of stars. Everyone's soul is made of stars. And I love that idea that everyone has something to share. Everyone has a way to shine. And I want you to feel important. Every time I'm behind the mic or behind the camera, I want you to feel loved and and a positive feeling inside. Um, so I think that's what I'm trying to portray is that you are loved, that you have a story to share. And I hope that you can feel that. How do you try to use your position to influence others positively? Well, that's the whole basis of the show. I mean, again, what this show is coming from, the lifestyle show, it was bringing positivity to your everyday, bringing positivity to your feed. There is so much negativity in the world, so much negativity in the media. I want to highlight the positive stories. I want to, not necessarily positive stories, but leave you with a positive feeling or something that you can improve your day with, right? And even though we're morphing into entertainment, I still hope that you can get that from this, right? And now what we're changing it into again is behind the scenes. So we're changing it from stories about general topics to specifically entertainment because that's kind of what my niche is. And we're looking at the behind the scenes of media influencers. And I think there's so much to be said about media. I think I'm going to get into that. That's one of your other questions. But I want to create positive media influencers. So I think that I'll answer some of these questions in some of your other questions as well. How do you want your listeners to respond to your art? And what are you trying to instill in other people? I think I'm trying to instill passion right now. And maybe always. I've been trying to instill this passion. There are so many people out there that want to create, that want to do good in the world, that have these ambitions, but they're covered in fear. And I totally understand that. I understand where they're coming from, right? I understand that it can be scary, that it's hard to find time, that you can come up with a million excuses, that you can think, oh, well, I'm doing something else with my life. But I think everyone has a dream, right? And they're like, this would be so cool. But, right? Or there's so many people that come to me that say things like, oh, I wish I could do acting, or I've always wanted to do acting, or oh, I wish I could do a talk show host, or oh my gosh, that's so cool that you do this or that, right? And if that's not your calling, that's totally okay. But if you feel this draw to it, I say, why not? Why are you not doing it? Um, and so I hope that this instills passion and gives you the tools. So not only are we just listening to other people to hear their cool stories about entertainment, but there's a reason why you're entertained. And I think that there's a beauty in being entertained. We're going to listen to their stories to hear how they did it. How did they become these writers, these podcasters, these influencers? How did they become successful? How are they becoming successful? How did they get to be on all these cool projects and star in these movies? Things that you think are so cool and unattainable, they really are at your grasp. How do you do that? I want to give you the tools so that you can live your dreams. Honestly, live your dreams because there's a reason why that's calling to you. There's a reason why you have that idea in your mind, and you could have an influence on good for others. Um, so who is your ideal listener? Who am I doing this show for? Well, I hope that as you're listening, that you start craving this, that you start thinking, I do have something to share with other people. How do I do that? I want to learn too. How do I do this? How do I become an influencer? How do I influence others? How do I use my talents and my creativity and my ideas to influence other people? So, again, giving you the tools, finding your passion, um, using that to create a positive influence. Okay. I hope I'm not reiterating myself, but we're going to talk more about this when we come back here on Backstage Pass with Phoenix Cannon. I'm answering your questions today about me. Welcome back to Backstage Pass with Phoenix. We're kicking off this show with a behind the scenes of me. Now, I've told you a little bit about myself, how I've got into media influencing. I feel like I'm involved in media in a lot of different ways. So, talk show host, which has always been a dream of mine, honestly. Um, Talk show host, I've done radio, television, broadcasting, documentaries. I've been on the editing side, the writing side, behind the camera, in front of the camera, spokesperson, acting. And that's still a lot of what I do. I still do acting. I'm also an acting coach. Um, I was recruited to do acting coaching at several different places. Now I do private acting coaching. I also, of course, do radio. I do emceeing. I do spokesperson stuff. I love the media. And this question is, why media? What makes you tick, and why is this an outlet that you've chosen? And I've touched on this a little bit, but something that's always made me tick is literally people. Like, I have always been interested in influencing other people, in um, creating friendships. And I guess my idea is that people are the purpose of life. Relationships are the purpose of life. Life, to me, life is meaningless unless you have relationship with others, unless you're helping other people, unless you're helping them get to be where they want to be, unless you're helping them be seen, unless you're helping them feel loved, feeling self-love, feeling helping them to reach their full potential. And media has such a negative connotation, I feel like. People always think media is evil, right? There's so much negativity in media. They always put blame on the media, right? The media is like the evil thing. But I don't think media is evil. I think that it is such a powerful tool. It connects people, so many different people in so many ways. You can put widespread goodness so quickly nowadays. There's so many tools at our fingertips. And just think about, how have you been affected by media? There are so many ways that you've been affected by media. Sure, there are probably negative ways, but think of the positive ways. You can think of a childhood show that you watched growing up that has influenced you. Maybe you watched Barney, maybe you watched Mr. Rogers, um, that taught you, that educated you, that made you feel loved. Like, I've heard of kids that didn't grow up in great families, but they felt like they had a family when they were watching YouTube or they were watching Barney, right? Music, of course, that has helped you get through hard times. A message, an inspirational message that wasn't somebody lecturing you directly, but was somebody that was doing either a podcast or a show or just speaking over the air that really touched you, that moved you. There are just numerous ways that you could probably list right now that you have been affected by media positively. And that's the beautiful thing, where you can be talking and your message doesn't just go to that one person that you're talking to. It can be spread so widely and so quickly that you can have a positive influence on so many different people. I remember one of the reasons that I wanted to do media was like, I remember thinking about like Disney princesses and how all they had to do was smile at kids and it would just change their lives. Like, they would be so happy when they saw that princess. Like, they would remember it for years and years. I remember I met Cinderella or whoever it is, and how it just made them so happy. And I just thought that influence is so cool. Or uh or like, I don't know, an autograph. How one person can just have their whole life changed and just have so much meaning and hope in their life just from somebody signing their name. And I just thought that's so amazing how much positivity people can bring just from doing a simple gesture if they are utilizing media right and just embracing media. Um, and so I think I'm getting off topic, but why media? Because it influences people, and I love people. And it just, I think also the creative outlet of it. It's just so fun. I think media is fun, and I think this life is meant to have fun. And sometimes we get so bogged down by what we think we should be doing that we forget about what we want to do. And I really think that those can go hand in hand. If we really put our minds to it, we should be able to make those two things go hand in hand. What we should be doing and what we want to do can go hand in hand. And then we just feel like we have purpose. Um, and what is your mission statement for the show? Well, going back to the old mission statement, finding the inner celebrity in everyday people, I still want to do that, but again, we're focusing on influencers now. We're getting the behind the scenes of media influencers. So as I was doing the lifestyle show, hearing all these different topics, we had a wide range of topics. Like, um, we did like parenting, we did business, we did, of course, entertainment. We did so many different topics. And just hearing that everybody has a story to tell, like I could have anyone come in, sit down, and we could find a story, and I'd be so interested, and we could get in conversation. And I'm like, oh, other people need to hear this, right? I still believe everyone has a story to share and has influence. But what I want to do now is not just tell the stories, but now curate influencers. Make your story, turn your passion into influence. How do you turn your passion into influence? That's kind of what my mission statement is for me as well. I want to now not just spread positivity, but curate positive influencers. So, how can you be an influencer and create positivity, radiate positivity with your story? So we're going to learn how other people are doing that, how other people are using radio waves, how they're using uh, YouTube, social media, how they're using the camera, how they're using their writing skills, how they're implementing their talents and their creativity and becoming positive influencers. That's what I want you to get from this. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. Okay, we don't have a ton of time left, but we're going through the questions, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling. But the next question for me is for aspiring fans and others who want to do this, do you have advice? So I assume they're talking about doing a talk show, doing a radio show, that kind of thing. My first piece of advice for you is to just start. Just start. I've had so many people come to me and tell me this. They're like, they hear whether it's podcasts, say that's the avenue. They're like, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I've always wanted to do a radio show. I've always wanted to do this. How did you do this? Right? And they think that there's some magic sauce or some secret backstage door, right? But as you're listening to the show, you're going to realize that everyone has a different journey. There's no one secret sauce. It's not like, oh, I got in with this agent and we're all with this agent. And if you get in with this person, then that's how you start your podcast. That's how you start it, right? There's no secret sauce. You just start. There are so many reasons to say no. And I've talked with so many people that want to be podcast hosts, who want to be talk show hosts, who want to be creators and influencers. And they just have, and then when I sit down and talk with them, they have all these reasons of why no. And I even had those. I remember having those same doubts of, again, we've talked about this. I don't have time. I think it's going to be too time consuming. Nobody's going to listen. What if people start being rude to me online? I'm scared to have my face shown. I don't like the sound of my own voice, right? There's so much self-consciousness. If you made a list of it, your list could go on and on and on about the reasons why you shouldn't do something, right? Especially if you're creating something. There will always be a million reasons why you shouldn't because it's not even made yet. And your life won't change that much if you just don't do anything. But there are so many reasons why you should. Not only that, but so many tools and things in the universe that will help you make that come to fruition. So just start. I'll tell you right now, I'm using Zoom free. Using YouTube will be free. You can put your podcast on, there are several different podcast sites that you can utilize for free as well. You sit down with a mic, even if you don't have the best mic. I mean, we could get into technology and all that stuff, but that's always going to be a hookup, right? Hang up for you. If you want to be a podcaster or if you want to be a talk show host, just sit down. If you got a laptop, go to the library if you don't, and just start. And I was talking to my sister about this because, I remember having all these same doubts. It's like, oh, I want this to be perfect. And you just starting is better than planning for a million years. So many of us are planners that are creators. And I think this kind of goes along with the next question. What would you caution others in this position? What pitfalls should people avoid? Don't be a perfectionist. that now this is said from me, who is a perfectionist. But this was some of my pitfalls where I just wouldn't start. I'd have these ideas and I'm like, oh, but where do I start? Okay, but if I do this, then I need to do this. Okay, but I need to have the perfect background. I need to have the perfect microphone. Oh, but I need to have this. But what if it doesn't look professional? What if I look dumb, right? What if I embarrass myself? Well, those what ifs will never, ever, ever stop. And soon it's going to be years that pass by. I sat down, I think a couple years ago, maybe it's been like 4 years now. I think it was actually 4 years now that I sat down and I started writing all the things that I thought would be really cool to do in my life that I wasn't doing because I was fearful, fearful of what we've said, mostly what people will think of me. What will people think of me? What if I'm not successful? We're fear of failure, right? That's universal. Um, and if you just start, that alleviates a lot of it because you just learn as you go. And I know that sounds so cliche, but it's okay. I think we have this idea of media, specifically media and entertainment. We attach this idea of fame to it. And we think if we're not famous, so if not millions of people know who I am, right? If we're not famous, we're failures, or we fear fame. We're like, oh, if I am in the media or entertainment or industry, then I will become famous or people will know me too much. And I'm so scared of that. So we have these fears, whether we will or we won't become famous, right? That word fame is attached to it. And I think that puts so much pressure on us. So if we can alleviate that and just remove the idea of fame from media, from entertainment, for just as you're starting, and just jump in and just embrace it. As soon as you start that microphone or that camera rolling, you're part of the entertainment industry. You have you have gotten your backstage pass, right? I'm giving it to you right now. I'm telling you that you are already part of it as soon as you start that. So just start. Just sit down with whatever you have today. Even if you have nothing, I can pretty much almost guarantee, I don't know where you live, but probably you have a library close to you. And that library should have resources. I know our small town library has stuff to you can make a podcast in. You can just rent a studio. You're worried about time? Do a 15-minute podcast or 15-minute, whatever it be, 15-minute YouTube show, 15-minute Instagram story, whatever it is that you're thinking, this would be fun. Just start it. Especially if that's your first motivation is to have fun, then just have fun. Don't get so tied up in the do's and don'ts and, oh my gosh, what are people going to think of me? We can't control what people are going to think of us, but you'll never spread the positive message that you have, the creativity that you have to offer unless you start. So that is my main piece of advice. I have so many other pieces of advice, but that's also what I was going to tell you is this show is going to be behind the scenes of media influencers, helping you become an influencer yourself, how you can create positive influence in your own life. But also, we're going to have some segments by request uh, of me also telling some coaching. So whether that's acting or some answering some of your questions, talk show hosting or various things, I'll be giving you some more advice, I suppose. I don't know if that is enticing to you or not, but we'll have some segments like that by request. And I'm very excited for it. We're going to wrap up here in just a minute. So I'll be back here on Backstage Pass. Thanks so much for joining my lounge here in Backstage Pass with Phoenix Cannon. I've had so much fun. Thank you so much for submitting your questions. I've had a lot of fun answering them. If you ever have more questions for me, you can always jump onto Instagram, Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Jump on Instagram. You can follow us along. We'll give you some content. You can also DM me right there, and I'll try to answer your questions and include them. So, I do have some specifics as I've kind of talked about what we're going to be doing in the show, and I'll reiterate a little bit at the end. But in the little bit of time I have, I do have some specifics about some of the other stuff I did do. So we've talked about me being a talk show host. We've talked about what we're going to expect from this talk show / podcast. By the way, you can find this wherever you get your podcasts after you've listened to it on Star 98 Radio. But I also do acting. I do acting coaching. I do film acting, commercial acting. And that's also why we're kind of doing this backstage pass, um, focusing on the entertainment business because that's where my connections are and that's where my passion lies, right? Not just in media in general, but specifically films and stuff. So, anyway, all right. So, some questions about what I do as far as acting and hosting. What kind of research do you do? This is referring to, I believe, my hosting. As far as hosting, honestly, and we're coming from the lifestyle show again, Lifestyle with Phoenix, where it was a wide range of topics, right? In just finding the inner celebrity in everyday people, getting to know their personal story. Honestly, I felt like doing less research was better. So my main research doing that show was just talking to people. And that was the basis of the show. As I was talking to people and just getting them to know them and who they are, I'd be like, this is a segment. And people would be like, no, I'm not, no, me? And I'd say, no, you have a story to tell. I'll show you. And so the research was just having a conversation with them and then just having a natural conversation on air because I feel like that is the best way to do a podcast, to do media, to have influence is just to have a normal conversation. People don't want to be lectured. People don't want to be recited a ton of just statistics, right? They want to have a conversation. They want to be in on the conversation. And I hope that's what you still feel is that you're in on the conversation. So, uh, as we're moving into behind the scenes of the entertainment business, specifically media influencers and the entertainment business, of course, for all my entertainment guests, if they have a specific project, I will try to do research on that, right? If I haven't seen their movie, I'll at least watch the trailer. Sometimes I haven't seen their movie because it hasn't come out yet, but I'll, watch the trailer and probably look up their IMDb if I don't know them very well to see other projects that they've done, right? So I do a little bit of background research, but I don't want to do too much research because I don't want it to be curated. Again, this is a place for us to get the behind the scenes firsthand, raw. And this goes along with the next question. How do you know what kind of questions to ask? Well, first of all, I've always just been naturally curious. And this also goes for aspiring fans who want to do this. Do you have advice? My question would be just be curious. I don't plan my questions in advance. When I was a producer on talk shows before, we had to curate the questions for the hosts. And that's one style of doing it, right? Because they were very timed. They had to know what was coming up. And sometimes the guests would want to know exactly what they were being asked. If they were high profile guests, they're like, I want to know exactly what I'm going to be asked. Well, I feel like that sounds curated. And what I learned as a producer was that we shouldn't really tell the people what they're going to be asked beforehand. Um, and that means like, okay, we're going to ask you this first and we're going to ask you this second, right? Everyone has a general idea of what the show is going to be, right? You don't want to just be like, I have no idea what I'm getting into. But in general, it's like, okay, this is the general format and we're going to have a conversation, is what I've always told ever since I've been a producer and now as a talk show host. I just say, we're going to have a conversation like I am right now. At one point, going back to pitfalls, I was editing out every right? And some people love that. They're just like, oh, it sounds so clear. But most people think it sounds really fake. That's not a conversation. I have not scripted something out. I'm not reading it to you. I'm having a conversation with you right now. And the more you do this conversationally, the better you'll feel, the more confident you'll feel with yourself. If you're constantly being scripted as a talk show host, then as soon as you take the script away, you're going to feel so unconfident. You're going to feel so nervous, right? But if you're not scripted, you can feel confident with yourself. You'll know how you speak and you'll know how you connect with other people. I hope that you can feel that with me. And so how do I know what questions to ask? Well, I in general have a format of, I want to know the background of you. And even just that, I can come up with a million questions, right? If you're having a conversation with somebody and if you're truly listening to what they're saying, you're going to have a question about that. Wait, how did you do that? Wait, tell me what? And if you have that question, your listeners are going to have that question. That's my philosophy, is if you're having that question, your listeners are having that question as well. And that's the whole reason to listen is because you're part of my lounge, you're sitting in, you're getting your own questions answered just by being part of the conversation. Do you discuss what not to talk about beforehand so your guests don't get uncomfortable? I just asked a brief question. I do say, is there anything you don't want to speak about? Or you don't, in the past we've done some deep topics, and we won't be covering those topics as much anymore, but we've talked about suicide. We've talked about um, just some, human trafficking. I've covered a lot of deep topics, and those are sensitive. And I don't ever want to put somebody in a position where they're uncomfortable because that's not the point of the show. I'm not here to put somebody in a corner or to traumatize them, right? I've had a lot of people cry on my show. I've had a lot of tissues out. And I asked them beforehand, is there anything you don't want me to ask or you do want me to ask? You have the freedom to say that. And I also say, if there is anything that you feel uncomfortable with, just say that you're uncomfortable with it. There's, you have control. That's a fear that people have coming on shows, right? They're like, oh, but I'm going to be cornered. No, that's not the purpose of my show anyway. So I do always say that. And usually people are like, no, you can ask whatever you want. And it makes them feel a lot more comfortable when they know, okay, I'm not being cornered here. And especially with entertainment guests, I have to ask that because sometimes they have a project that they can't talk about legally. They've signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, where they can't talk about it or it doesn't come out yet or something. So we do have to tiptoe around that. So I say, okay, is there anything that I can't mention or that hasn't come out yet? So we do give a brief talk about that. And I think that's really good to have with your guests, to have that trust. All right. And we just have a little bit of time left. So how much time do you spend? This is for acting, I guess. How much time do you spend auditioning versus paid acting? Well, we can get into this a little bit more into a different segment where I give you specific acting advice. But I will say that the art of acting is auditioning. Right now, anyway. And so I do, as we've said, a lot of different things. Talk show host. I'm a mom. I do emceeing. I do acting. I do a lot of different things. And so so on a good month, I would say what I can handle is like 2 bookings a month because a lot of times I have to travel for them. So that would be probably traveling every other week. Sometimes I travel every week, but I would say on a general good month, it would be like every other week I get a gig. So that would be maybe 1 or 2 days of shooting every other week. Maybe if it's every week, that would be 4 days of shooting per month. And the rest of the days, it'd be like sometimes I can get like 5 to 10 auditions a week, maybe more. Okay, so that many auditions a week, that much time filming. That's a good month. Sometimes for actors, and they'll tell you this, sometimes it's all month auditioning. No, there's no guarantee. I would say on a comfortable month, it'd be 2 times a month, acting for 1 or 2 days if I'm traveling out of state. If I'm not traveling out of state, I could do more. And then auditioning, and I can give you more specifics on a different day, but that's kind of the ratio, I would say. And speaking of future shows, yes, you can ask questions like that to me. Be specific, and I will try to give you some advice. So if those of you out there that are trying to get into the acting industry, I'm a private coach, so I teach about this kind of stuff all the time and tell people how I do it. And I'm very excited for that. So as a recap of what this show will be, Backstage Pass with Phoenix. It will not just be behind the scenes of me, although we will have some little coaching sessions where I can answer some of your questions about acting, about talk show hosting, about behind the scenes of all the things that I do. Very excited for that, to connect with you and answer all your questions. But we're also going to get the behind the scenes of other media influencers. So social media, podcasters, musicians, of course, actors, directors, producers, writers, location managers, designers, you name it, the entertainment industry. We're going to have all the behind the scenes here for you. This is your VIP pass to my lounge, where we get to sit down, have a conversation, and then give you what you need, not only to be entertained, but also to become the positive influencers yourself. So thank you so much for listening. You can find this wherever you get your podcasts and also on social media at Backstage Pass with Phoenix. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.